Light as a feather, stiff as a board. Light as a feather, stiff as a board.
We are the weirdos, mister.
Black as night, erase death from our sight. White as light, mighty hectate make it right.
I myself am strange and unusual.
It's time to cast your circle, spark some incense, and grab a cup of tea because it's time for the Cousins Coven podcast. I'm Sharon.
And this is Wendy. Welcome back to the Coven, you guys.
We're excited, as always.
Yes.
Today we are donning our tinfoil hats. We're going to be talking about conspiracy theories. And disclaimer, if you are offended by conspiracy theories, I guess sorry.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, I feel
find
like
it fascinating, so we wanted to talk about it.
Yeah, we're going to try to go more on, I guess, the fun side of it and not try to get into any of the sadder stuff. But it is kind of like hand in hand, tragedy and conspiracy.
Right.
But first, I feel like we have news, some catch up, and all this fun stuff that we've been watching. So where do you want to start?
I guess kind of this catch up thing that I have. So this week in school, I was learning about shared death experiences. Do you know what that is?
Wow. What does that mean? Two people dying at the same time?
No. Like somebody dies and you're in the room or near them and they're experiencing something and you can also see what they're experiencing, such as maybe seeing a bright light or hearing angels sing or seeing a loved one who's passed away.
Wow.
Or seeing the body or the spirit leave the body.
I didn't know that this was a phenomenon that had a name and people have been identifying and researching by itself. That's so powerful and
right.
Wow, that's kind of makes me think of real life things that I've heard and a combination of the movie Ghost. Like
right.
Whenever someone would die and they could see either it was kind of like demons coming after them or angels coming after them and you could witness it.
Right.
So what did you study? What did you find out?
It was just basically that they were talking how scientists believe this is a real thing because how could you be hallucinating the same thing? Because the brain, they say when the brain is dying, that's why you see your loved ones or you see the bright light. But if somebody who's not dying also experiences that, it gives belief in the phenomenon of life after death.
That totally sounds true because, the DMT that gets released in your head,
right.
It's supposed to open you up to seeing other entities.
Right.
Someone like you or I who's more witchy and more open would be like, yeah, no, you're seeing the unseen. It's not a hallucination.
Right.
Or maybe more skeptical or scientific mind is thinking it's only an illusion.
Right, because the brain is dying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But if somebody else is seeing that at the same time as the person who's dying,
they're saying that's credible for them.
Right.
Woo, I love this.
Yeah.
So did they have any specific cases that you were getting to hear about what they saw?
Yeah, there were a few. So one of them, I should have written them down. I apologize. I'm just kind of winging it here. But one of them was a mother was passing away and her family were there. Previously, the father had also passed away. So they did see his spirit come into the room to grab their mother, and they saw the mother's spirit leaving the body and the mother and father leaving together into the bright light.
That's powerful.
Mm-hmm.
That's got to be really comforting, I would think.
Mm-hmm. And there were 3 people in the room other than the person who was dying. So brothers and sisters.
Wow.
All seeing the same and experiencing the same. And they said that there was this feeling of goosebumps almost all over your body and a feeling of warmth. And when they looked into the light, they said that they just felt this great, immense love. Mm-hmm. And that they could see 3 shadow people at the end. So I thought that was interesting. Yeah.
This is super warming my heart.
Good.
I'm really glad you shared that. I think it's just something I've always thought of, but again, didn't realize that there's other people who have been researching at it and looking at the phenomenon. And I think that gives people some insight into the death experience.
Mm-hmm. Right. I think so too. And they kind of were looking at the religious aspect of it because they thought, well, if you're religious, then obviously you're going to see something or experiencing something more than a non-religious person, but that's not true. It's just if you're a human being, you can experience these things.
Yeah, I don't think that your religion is going to cater to your death experience.
Right.
I think that we're going to all find out that we're way more interconnected than we ever thought, and we're all going to the same place regardless of who you are, what you did, or your religion.
Right.
It's probably just all one kind of area. I don't even think that bad people go to a separate place. I think we just go to a place.
Right. I do believe kind of that maybe if the person who was passing away felt that they were the worst person, like maybe a murderer who felt shame as they were dying, maybe they could create a space where it was like hell before they moved on to.
So they have to go through torture, you're telling me?
Possibly if they haven't released, I don't know scientifically, this is just a personal theory.
Speculation.
So this is just speculation. That I think that some of the things that I've read have led me to believe that somebody could create their own hell space.
Yeah.
And so their body is holding them to that hell space until they can forgive themselves to move on.
So some sort of healing purgatory.
Right.
I mean, in the end, it sounds like your soul needed it.
Right.
Were there anyone in the studies that they saw a not so comforting death experience?
No, everything was positive. Every experience that I listened to was positive. They even talked about how a gentleman, he was a baseball player, but it was one of those lower circuit baseball players. And he was at training, and he all of a sudden was stopped, like in his mind he was stopped where he was at. He was like getting ready to go play the game, and he was stopped where he was at, and he just had this immense feeling of like love but also panic all at once, and he just thought of his father right at that second. And then he got home later that night and received a phone call from his father. But then 5 minutes later, he got a phone call saying that his father had died earlier that day when he was getting ready for the game.
So you don't even have to be in the same room to experience it.
Right. So isn't that interesting that he felt that, and then he went home, got a call from his dead father.
There's something paranormal about phones that I don't think we've ever actually talked about too much, other than maybe in the Mothman cases where there was just weird, eerie voices, and it was always linked to the UFO and the strange light sightings. But I have definitely heard that like ghosts can leave, I know it sounds stupid, but like voicemails, or that they can communicate through electronics and radio frequencies. I guess if I believe in the use of the ghost box, I should be saying it's not a stupid belief.
Right. I've even experienced a situation where I felt like I was having kind of a spiritual experience, not with a ghost, but maybe with my spirit guide or somebody who was trying to guide me, where I heard a phone ringing. And then when I slept that night, I dreamt of, like I'd been hearing this phantom phone ringing all day. And then when I slept that night, I had a spiritual experience with my spirit guide trying to give me information.
And it felt connected?
Yeah.
The ringing.
It was like it was trying to get me in tune to be able to receive the message.
I feel like I've heard phantom phone calls too. It's just, I can't connect the dots to a full story.
Yeah.
Gotcha. But I've definitely heard of people getting like communications from dead loved ones on the phone. So the fact that guy had a full-on conversation with his dad, did he say what he was telling him?
Yeah, his father was saying something, you're going to get some news, I just don't want you to be upset, and I loved you very much.
Dang!
And that was basically it. And the guy, he was like, he didn't know his dad had died at that point. So to have both of those experiences, the one in the locker room and then the one at home, and then to find out your dad had died when you were in the locker room. That's just, it's kind of almost like amazing and heart-wrenching at the same time, because you think about, he didn't know, but part of his aura knew.
Yeah, so connected to that other person's energy. And I wonder too, does it depend on the person who's passing, whether you receive a message or not? Do they only get like so many messages that they can like group tweet out there or whatever?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Or maybe it takes a certain amount of energy.
Right. Like how skilled is this person at communicating to their loved ones? Do they have to have a belief in it? Can they be a skeptic person and get it done? Like, or what if it's like jail and they're like, you get one phone call?
I think that my personal opinion would be that anybody can receive it, even a skeptic, but how they view the information and how they explain it to themselves afterwards. some people can still be a skeptic, but then after it happens, they're like, no, there had to be an explanation. If there's not, then I'm not going to chalk it up to anything. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know.
Fascinating stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what else do we have?
Well, I have like some little bit of news on one of my favorite authors. One of our favorite books is getting another continuation.
Which one?
I'm so excited. I can't even say it without freaking out. Alice Hoffman, the writer of Practical Magic, is writing another prequel series to add on to everything. So there was Practical Magic, which we know is the book and a wonderful movie with Sandra Bullock and Nicole Kidman. And then they also had a prequel to that, which was The Rules of Magic, which follows the aunts in their youth. And now we're going to get the story of Maria Owens, the original witch who got the curse on the family. And it starts with her being like a young orphan who's abandoned in like a field, and this witchy woman like takes her in, and she realizes that Maria has this natural gift, so she trains her. And then it ends up going into Maria's life in Salem, Massachusetts, and like getting, I guess, betrayed by the man she loves, and kind of the beginning scene that we've seen in the movie. Right. So we are going to get that full story now, a Salem, Massachusetts witch.
Oh my gosh. You just totally made my day.
I know.
Like, I'm super excited.
Dude, I get these notifications from her whenever she writes a book, because I just signed up to follow her on Amazon. And so, like, I saw that she had a new thing. I clicked on the link and I was like, well, hope it's Practical Magic. I know it's not, because that just came out recently. And I was, like, floored that it was. And I started screaming.
This is amazing.
Yeah, so if you haven't read Rules of Magic or Practical Magic, I would really recommend you do so. They're such good books. And this new book, I think it's called Magic Lessons. It's not going to come out till October of this year. Okay. So you can pre-order it or just kind of read the old books for now and get caught up.
I'm lucky because our library has e-books or audiobooks.
Yes.
Yeah, so they have e and audiobooks, and so I checked out The Rules of Magic on audio and listened to it while I was at work, and it was so good.
Dude, I have the audiobooks for both of them too.
Oh,
yes, I love The Rules of Magic. There's a part of me that kind of loves it because the brother in my mind is so hot. He's such a good character, and I just imagine him with the beautifulest hair, and I love getting to see like that time period. Is it like the 60s, I think, or 70s?
Yeah, it's like 60s, 70s.
I love this freaking book.
Yeah.
There's been a part of me that's wanted to talk about nothing but those books for a whole podcast. And I was like, we're going to lose our listeners if I just have a random episode.
Book reviews.
But, I'll probably scream all about it once it comes out and spoil it in some sense. I'll try not to, but I can't make any promises.
Yeah. And remember, they're supposed to be coming out with a show soon, too.
Yeah. They're going to do a show for Rules of Magic. Yeah. So that brother better be hot.
He better be.
Damn it.
Who were you picturing in your mind?
If I say it, you're going to make fun of me.
I know who you're going to say. I just know it.
I think I've said it before, but Adam Driver.
Yeah. I knew it.
Some people think he's so ugly.
Nah.
I just think there's something like beautiful about him, and probably because of Kylo Ren. I don't know what that says about me, but I just love guys with lightsabers. It's really what it comes down to.
I was just gonna say something, but it's not really podcast material. But Ethan got a my son, for his birthday, he got a lightsaber. And it's the kind that I can record messages, and then you swing it around, it lights up and says the words. And so he was like, fuck! And it was saying it.
That's, of course, the first thing any person is going to do is do inappropriate things.
Yeah.
Because that's what we are as humans.
Right.
I don't know. Is it a red one?
No, it's multicolored.
Oh.
And so I thought it was even better because it can change colors.
I don't understand why it's recording.
I don't know. It also had a Chewbacca sound that comes out of it.
What?
Yeah.
This is what happens when Disney buys.
Maybe.
And they just do anything?
Yeah.
Okay,
sorry,
I don't know why that offended me.
Totally off topic, and I'm sorry about Disney.
Alright, I love you, Disney. So why don't we talk about what we've been watching?
Okay.
Because I feel like 2020 has kind of been killing it with women shows, and that's not even proper English, but just representation in general. And I think like everything post Game of Thrones, they're just doing more weird shit because they realize we love it. So like fucking Witcher was so good. I know you said you didn't watch it.
I haven't seen it.
But did you see the image of Henry, is it Cavill? I don't remember how to say his last name. Something like that. In the hot tub with his wig on?
No.
Okay, I'm gonna Google it and then
Okay.
maybe you'll realize why it's so good. This actor is super beautiful and handsome. He's doing this, like, Geralt guy who's... Okay, it's Henry Cavill, but I feel like I'm saying it wrong.
Cavill or
Cavill?
I think it's Cavill.
I think so, too.
Yeah.
But his character is super hot and suave. He does magic, and he has sex with witches.
I'm familiar with the video game.
Good! Okay, so you
Yeah.
don't need an explanation.
That's nice.
It's nice.
That's a nice photo. You guys should just Google this. Even if you're not into him, you will be now.
Right?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter your orientation. You can just appreciate the human form.
Yeah.
Should be like a statue, like the thinker. This should be the next kind of statue we make. So that show is great. We've got witches in there.
Mm-hmm.
Loving it.
What is the representation like for witches? Like, do they put them in a good light, or do they put them in a bad light? Do they make it realistic?
Kind of realistic, because people who are different creatures, like the Witcher is hired to go like hurt and kill, and everyone thinks that the Witcher is hurting and killing all these other creatures and magical creatures, like even goat people and things like that. And in reality, he's actually kind of a nice guy, and he'll try to like help them get away from the humans who are the assholes and just like go about their day if he can, or he'll just kill them and use his own magic. And then as far as the witches, they kind of have this council, and they'll usually assign the witches different jobs to go and help like the kingdoms and stuff like that. And there's kind of a distrust towards witches who aren't a part of that group, or a distrust of them in general. So it feels kind of realistic where they're using them for their powers,
Right.
but they also don't really trust them. So I kind of like it, and there's cute romance.
And obviously a hot dude.
A hot dude.
I'm into that.
Yeah. Wearing all black.
Yeah.
Beautiful hair.
Dang, I should have watched it. My husband was watching it. I should have watched it with him.
It's not bad. I feel like it needs a little bit of a bigger budget, and so I'm holding out for season 2 to have a bigger budget.
Gotcha.
But speaking of shows that we both like, that hasn't, I feel like, gotten a lot better, with Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Yes.
How the hell did you love this part 3 that we're on now?
Yeah, so I kind of had a love-hate relationship with it. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay, that was me in the last part. I didn't really like it that much.
Gotcha. So in this one, I felt that I didn't like their portrayal of pagans. Yeah, and so it kind of made me mad. But there was a specific situation that happened that I have to bring up.
Please do.
And disclaimer, if you haven't watched this, so go ahead and fast forward if you feel like. But when Zelda found out that Hilda had not come back from the dead, and they went to the Lazarus pit, and she called upon Hecate, I was eating breakfast, and I fucking was sobbing into my breakfast burrito.
I cried too!
I just felt so much love, because she was like, all of the witches,
all of the women
are connected. We're all connected. So when we're doing a spell, we're not just calling upon Hecate. We're calling upon all the people who've ever worshipped her. And I was just like, my heart just was like, my dog was staring at me because I was like...
I was so happy to hear you say that. I did the exact same thing. It was a powerful, powerful scene. And, like, I cried my eyes out, because she's another goddess that I work with. And again, to see representation of people worshiping your god is a big deal. And it's a silly show. And it says things like, the pagans, like the pagans are evil. And it's like, you know, I've come to expect that from this show. But I do see that the writers, I know that I talked about it before, I listened to some interviews, how they are themselves magic users. And it does feel like by this time they're sneaking in their beliefs as much as they're allowed.
Sure.
And they are kind of getting closer to what witches are, I feel like, with this third season. When they're doing their rituals and dancing around and singing, it was so fucking beautiful. I got to see Pan. Yeah, he was a bad guy. And you know what? Pan can be used to cause panic. And it was really freaking cool. That was another moment of freak out for me. And so, like, all those magical moments felt a little more authentic than I've ever seen from that show.
Right.
And so for that, I say thank you, Sabrina, for that representation. Yeah, you called pagans evil, but, you know, you guys were, like, as soon as we saw the Dark Lord in season 1, I kind of had to just laugh at it. But I'm kind of also really glad they're distancing themselves from the Dark Lord. And this whole new thing of, like, worshiping Lilith, that also choked me up.
Right. Yeah,
yeah,
it was
calling
pretty
a pound woman.
Yeah, pretty powerful. And bathing in the moonlight.
Mm-hmm.
That was awesome. How they made a special potion to rub onto their bodies and then laid out in the moon. That's something that I was like, yes.
That was really cute.
I love it. My heart is full.
Yeah, and they even did some fun stuff like mentioning the Loch and Aleister Crowley and his legends. And so I really felt like these people who are the writers do know about the witchcraft stuff. They're trying.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
The hell stuff was also really fun. Like when she's running around and it's kind of like the Wizard of Oz and all this weird sexy stuff and the BDSM with her boyfriend like cheating on her. I was like, damn!
Yeah.
So I have a fun time with it. And not to mention the voodoo.
Yeah, the voodoo that came in was really...
authentic.
It seemed authentic.
She called it out and was like, it's not this and that like you see. Like, I'm different and I'm not what you expect. Mm-hmm. And then she's doing her dancing. And I felt like... so good.
Yeah, and I felt like they used the correct terminology.
They did.
Mm-hmm.
I believe she even said it was like Haitian hoodoo, vodou. Like she was using the right terms.
Right.
I was not expecting her and Zelda to like have a thing for one another. Like when they started kissing, I was like, oh, to be honest, I didn't pick up on that.
Yeah.
What did you think of their like little romance?
I thought it was great.
Yay!
Yeah. It's like good. She wasn't getting what she needed from a man.
Yeah, so
That's
that'll
for
be
sure.
fun in the next season to see what happens. Zelda's my favorite character.
Oh, good. Yeah. I don't think I have a favorite one. Oh, maybe the cousin.
Ambrose.
Yeah, Ambrose.
He is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, his storyline with, what's the girl's name? She's like one of the coolest chicks.
Oh,
his girlfriend.
His girlfriend.
Why am I blinking?
I don't remember either.
It's something like super proper.
Yeah.
No, I was going to say Clarence. That's definitely
not
it. But their whole storyline of like going off and going after her dad was really fun.
And his knowledge and the way that he researches and his magic base and
legit.
Yeah.
That's very legit lingo.
Yeah.
Yay for this show.
Like, yes. So like I said, just love hate, but I think the only thing I hated was, pagans being evil.
I don't know why.
Wait, what?
I was laughing at it. I don't know why. I thought it was a little bit lame too. The only thing that literally made me cringe and I hated it was when they were doing these random musical moments when they were cheerleading. I hated that. I was like, okay, cheerleading is not two girls singing and not singing like without microphones. It made no sense how they're doing these backflips and just singing like "Hey Mickey."
Yeah,
like, I hated that so much. It took me out of it.
Yeah, you're like, ugh. Take that teenage stuff away.
Mm-hmm. Oh, what about the weird daddy issues where it's like her dad was kind of being weird and sexual with Nick and like they were stuck in each other's heads? I feel like there was some tabooness there.
Well, because remember in most stories, Satan marries his daughter.
I didn't remember that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Really?
I'm pretty sure. And plus, think of all the gods that we've talked about in the past where gods and married their daughters. It's the same concept. So to me, I'm like, I know it's disgusting today. We feel that it's disgusting. But back then, that was a real thing, like in the old days.
Yeah.
So I felt like they portrayed that properly. Not that I'm saying it's right, but they portrayed it the way that I see it.
Right. And then like the ending too, when she's kind of becoming two Sabrinas, one in hell, one in school, that was pretty ballsy.
Yeah. Would you have done that?
Hell no. I would have never been able to be a badass bitch thriving in hell as a teenager. I could barely navigate life.
But would you split that part of yourself off and let her do it?
I was too goody-goody. I actually really think it's super interesting that this character does kind of have a moral gray area and does whatever the hell she wants. Sometimes it's a little bit annoying, but in this case, I think it's going to be a really good storyline.
I just chalk that up to her being the devil's daughter. Mm-hmm. So.
Be badass. Mm-hmm. I feel like there's more about that show, but I can't remember because I consumed it so quickly, but I really, really enjoyed it.
It's not bad.
I can't believe that everything we're watching is basically Netflix right now.
Yeah.
We just turned into a giant Netflix commercial.
Sorry about that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Should we move on to like our main topic?
Yes. So what are we talking about again?
Conspiracy theories.
So I've written everything down, put them in our cauldron, and we've got some topics here for you guys. So we're really excited. I have loved conspiracies since I was a very small child, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that comes with the household that I grew up in. I feel like my dad was quite the conspiracy theorist. So
That's awesome.
Made me feel like it. He was always thinking the government was listening to everything we say and having phones tapped. He believes in all that kind of stuff. And
so it's always been a part of your life to have that distrust.
Right.
Nice.
Yeah.
For me, I just was like super naive, I think, and didn't have that exposure to that mindset for a while. And so I'm a little late to the conspiracy theory game, and I find it freaking fascinating to open up your mind to just look outside what you're fed.
Right.
Because if you look at the media, if you look at history, like all the things that America tells you about America is to preserve America's face, or
kind
to
of
say
like
face.
the storefront of America.
Yeah.
They want to be like, hey,
Makes you look good.
We look great on the outside, but on the inside, not
Right.
so much.
Typically, whenever we're the invader, we make it look like, we weren't. Like
Right.
Christopher Columbus and
Right.
how we got here to begin with.
Sure.
It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
So
we're still teaching that in school.
Mhm.
Lies.
yeah. So I can see why it's healthy to have an open mind to look into these things, but you also have to like research both ends before you really fully commit, I think, to conspiracy theories. But they're so fun.
Right. Me too.
So do you want
I'm
to pull
just
our
loving
first
it.
one?
Oh my gosh. Okay. I hope I'm ready for this.
Okay, we've got our big cauldron.
Okay.
We're taking it back old school.
I feel like we have some really in-depth topics too. So the first one we have is human chipping. So I'll kind of take the lead on this if you don't mind.
Please.
Okay, so human chipping is this phenomenon from years ago. I think it started in the 50s, actually. I better bring out my notes. I'm so
Okay.
sorry. I'm like, oh, I've got notes on this.
Use them.
Not the 50s, I'm sorry. Late 90s, early 2000s. So basically it's this RFID transponder that can be put under the skin. So just like we put in our pets, that
Right.
kind of thing. So it's just like that. And some people use them to open, nowadays I should say, they're used to open like car doors, to get into your house.
Gross.
To use
For paying,
for
I know.
paying, stuff like that.
That's so gross to me. I don't know why I would not want to put something in my body to open a door.
Right. And, they have this security feature on them where it's supposed to stop from people to be able to, like, insert illness into you. What am I talking about? When your computer gets infected, they can insert some sort of virus into your system via code.
Ew.
Supposedly. And I'm like, how does that work with our cell makeup? So that makes us computers, right?
You're creeping me out.
I'm so sorry. That's the conspiracy.
Yeah.
Is that if it can happen, which it has happened once, when they were testing it, this guy became infected. And
what if it's like radiation?
exactly. But his thing was he actually got sick.
Mm-hmm.
Like physically sick with a virus that was infected with him.
And they implanted the virus to test it, or was this an accident?
No, this was an accident.
Okay.
Somebody said that they, what is that called when they break into your network? The firewall, whatever.
I don't know
So,
the terms.
I don't either. I apologize for that. You guys probably already know what we're talking about, but basically whatever defense wall that they had up for security purposes, somebody went through that, hacked in, and implanted this coding of a virus like a computer, and the body read it, and he became sick.
That's hard to even fully grasp.
Right.
I'm thinking that's something that could be blocked if you were to do something. I don't know. What if you were just able to like be the type of person to not
Believe in
it or breathe it out, overcome it? If
Right.
the Iceman could not get E. coli, can I resist, this
Right.
weird chip virus?
Mhm.
But obviously, why would you even take the risk? I don't
Mhm.
understand the benefit to your life to just do something with your wrist to get a door open.
Right. And I
Seems
know
dangerous. What if someone chops off your hand to get into your Tesla?
exactly. Or murders you and just takes your eyeballs. I feel like with this one initially when it came out, they were humanity as a whole, I feel like when they would hear about it would think this is just another way of the government to try to to keep tabs on you.
Mm-hmm. Which is a thing that, as a woman, I feel like I wouldn't mind, because I remember watching creepy-ass shows where it's like, women get abducted and put into some guy's basement for 20 years. Like, find me, please. Someone just know where I'm at. I don't have... Why would I not need to be found?
Right.
I don't know. What are your thoughts on being tracked? Does it bother you?
It bothers me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, we're already tracked enough, right?
With our cell phones.
That kind of thing. So... But the thing is, I just don't know if the government would fully watch us, or if it would then become based on, oh, we're going to just make this person want to purchase this item. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of our phone tracking stuff is not to figure out if we're terrorists or to figure out what we're doing. It's what we're purchasing, what we're looking at. That's what they're tracking. They want to use it as a means of ads to control us, to purchase items.
Right.
For money purposes.
And maybe also kind of control your way of thinking to keep you distracted from the bigger pictures.
Exactly.
And that conspiracy brain just keeps on rolling.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Human chipping.
Initially, when I was looking at human chipping, I thought that our family had a thing with this one, but it was barcoding. Did you ever hear about barcoding? Basically, it's somebody inserts it or gets a tattoo barcode on you, and you can use that to pay for items, and you can use that to have your insurance on or whatever, and they would just scan
Dark
it.
Angel. I think she had that barcode on the back of her neck.
Right. And I remember in the 90s, our family had a huge thing because they were talking about how in the news, they were talking about they wanted that to start being a thing, that people could do barcodes so we could track how many people are on their planet and blah, 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 blah.
Gross.
And our family was like, oh my gosh, this is it. This is the end of the world. Because as soon as they start tracking us, as soon as that starts happening, then it's a domino effect and the end of the world is happening.
It's kind of creepy too, where it does sound like we're being controlled by some sort of outside alien force that's treating us like slaves or meat or something.
Yeah.
Or like cattle, like, ugh.
Now we're getting into some creepy shit now.
Yeah, baby. Should we draw our next
Yeah,
topic?
let's do it.
Okay. Oh, this is a big one.
Oh, no.
Big Daddy Conspiracy, the JFK assassination.
Okay. This one's a hard one. I'm going to grab my notes out because it's in a different spot than my notebook. So, I know we were going to do a whole topic on this one, and it just didn't come to fruition.
So we kind of just decided to throw it in this cauldron, really.
Yeah. So basically, on November 22nd, 1963, JFK was shot. And there's all of these conspiracy theories about how he was shot, why he was shot, that kind of thing.
I just know he was in Dallas, Texas.
Yes, Dallas, Texas. They're doing a parade. There's a vehicle that they were in, and apparently with another couple, which was LBJ.
Wasn't it the governor of Texas?
Oh, it was the governor of Texas.
Yeah.
Right? And his wife.
So I think his name's John Connolly.
John Connolly,
I believe.
you're correct. Yeah. And then the wives and the two agents in the front. Mm-hmm. So it was basically a 6-person vehicle. And they were driving along, and the president was shot in the head. And so there's these conspiracies. Did Lee Harvey Oswald do it, or did somebody else do it? Did Lee Harvey have help? None of those questions were ever really answered to the public. And so that leaves room for all of these theories of conspiracy. And so if you can watch tons of YouTube videos on this, and there are ones that say his wife, Jackie, was the one who actually shot him.
That one's so sad to me.
It is.
What are they thinking, that she's just sitting there with a tiny pistol?
Yes, with a tiny pistol. Looks like she might pull it out of her, which I don't know, because you can see the outfit that she's wearing. It's not like she's got a boot strap on her ankle that she could have it hiding in. So I don't know if it was under the seat. They're saying that she could grab it from under the seat, and then he leans in to say something to her, and her arm just comes up and shoots him in the chin, and it goes out the head.
Although he probably deserved it for being a cheating-ass husband, I really feel like Jackie fucking loved this man.
Yeah, I don't think that she shot him.
I did see some interviews of one of the nurses who was, like, in the room after Kennedy was taken to the hospital. They tried to bring him back to life, basically. I don't know for how long or what they really did. But the nurses described, like, talking to her and being like, okay, did you want to, like, go now? Like, she was crying on top of his body, and then she just, like, wouldn't leave the room, even though he was dead, and she would not leave his side.
Right.
And, like, the fact that she, like, reaches back for his skull, it's so fucking heartbreaking.
Right.
She's in shock. Like, I just think that for me and my emotional self, I say she did not do it.
Right. Exactly.
But Oswald, or did you have more on that?
Oh, no.
So I feel like Oswald, there's a lot to say about him, and he does kind of seem like a good candidate for it. What I was finding out about him, I'm sure you know, is that, like, he's an American citizen who went off to Russia at some point in his life. He really wanted to reject America. He had attempted to assassinate people prior to Kennedy. Right. He'd even killed, like, a cop, I think, like, after Kennedy or before Kennedy at some point in time. And so there's a lot of speculation. I think what people are told is that he was a one-man operation all by himself.
Right.
So what are your thoughts on that?
I think if there was Russian involvement and he was not he would have been maybe the lead on the situation, but I think he would have had help. So there, I don't know if you came across this, but there was supposedly a man with an umbrella.
Yeah,
standing
the umbrella man.
Yeah, the umbrella man, and they never found this man. But they think that there's a possibility he was also involved because they found that he was shot. I gotta read this note really quick. I'm so sorry because I had this. It's really important to kind of make a point, but there were 3 bullet casings, but they only found 2 bullets. So they think that they came from different directions too.
Right.
Is from what they said. So to me, I'm like, that automatically, how could Lee Harvey be in one place or bounce it off of something? How could that happen?
Right, like the magic bullet theory.
Right.
Which I feel like is something worth breaking down. But first we should go over this umbrella man, because I think I have information on him, but I want to hear, like, the theories on him. Okay. So there's this guy, I guess, just standing in the footage you can see holding an umbrella. He's wearing all black. He does stand out, and people are believing that his umbrella is essentially like this umbrella capable of shooting bullets.
Right, like a James Bond gun.
Inspector Gadget almost.
Right.
What I heard is that there's a guy who came forward and said, yeah, I designed such an umbrella, but the only way to make it go off was to, like, open it. And so his was open the entire time. I don't know if you had more theories you wanted to go on about him.
Not really, just that I felt like, he was in the video, but nobody really saw him.
So I think I can debunk this.
Okay.
My source is YouTube. So, there was, that's my disclaimer.
So take it as it is.
But apparently the Umbrella Man did testify to Congress after the event because he felt he had to clear his name. And it was a huge theory, like, right off the bat. And that he was actually just a protester. He wasn't protesting JFK. He was protesting JFK's dad. And something that his dad had been in association with this other man, and I can't remember his name, I'm so sorry, but apparently this guy that he was protesting was known for carrying this specific type of umbrella. And so by standing there with that umbrella open, he was trying to have, like, a quiet protest to something that wasn't even JFK, but JFK's dad and his associate. And so it kind of just sounds like this guy was just a political nerd.
Right.
Not a nerd, but,
Right, a political person.
Dressing up for the event, trying to make a statement, and it really got him in trouble.
Wow.
So I think that might be true. Okay. Maybe it's something, if you really want to research on your own, I feel like that's the best thing to do with conspiracy theories. Don't just take one video as fact and really look into both sides.
Right, exactly. I also had heard that there was a possibility that somebody was in another building just across the way. So maybe there would have been 2 shooters from 2 different buildings. But we'll never know because they never went to those buildings.
Right. Yeah. So I heard that also, like, the grassy knoll behind the Umbrella Man, that they think that there might have been a shooter on the ground because there's this one footage that they have that some person took, gave over to the CIA or the FBI, and it's never been released publicly. But apparently in that video you can see, like, puffs of smoke and evidence of a supposed third shooter or second shooter, and there's, like, this family member who's trying to sue to get that to be released because it was, like, her grandparents' footage from that day, and, like, they'll never release it, and it's just, like, this huge scandal that today's never been released. Right. It just sounds like there's a lot going on. And I think it is kind of important to talk about that magic bullet theory. Yeah. So, like, I guess what they're saying is the bullet from Oswald was coming from, was it the book Texas book depository or something. So it's on this really high building. He shoots out the window. It goes through Kennedy's neck, and then it ricochets into the governor's. What did I have on here? I feel like I wrote it down. I think it goes through the governor's shoulder, ricocheted into the wrist, and then the knee. And the only reason that was possible is because those little seats that the governor and his wife were in were like these collapsible seats that you pull up into the car. So they were really low to the ground. Their knees were kind of up higher. And so from Kennedy's neck, the trajectory down, it went into his shoulder because he's lower than Kennedy. And so people have analyzed the bullets and how it ricocheted, and they do think that it was just one bullet, even though it seems like that could have been more than one bullet.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's one theory.
That would have taken an extreme crazy coincidence.
For one bullet to hit two people? So you're saying you don't buy it?
I don't think I buy it.
All right.
I mean, I don't know.
And I guess with like the sound of the gunshots, people are trying to say there wasn't enough time for Oswald to fire those two shots because there's only like 4 seconds in between them or something like that. I don't know if I think that it's just Oswald by himself, if the KGB hired Oswald, or if maybe the CIA even hired Oswald. And there's also that like MK Ultra thing where they think that he might have been hypnotized, and that MK Ultra was doing this like experiment to show like a photo of like Kennedy's face or something like that. They'd flip it over and be a body target, and they would just go like flipping it back and forth and kind of putting him in a hypnotized state prior to that, so that all he's seeing are these images of like Kennedy and a target, and it like planted the seed in this guy's head. But
then MK Ultra would have to have a main objective as to why they did that. They wouldn't just do it as a test. It would have not on the president.
For sure. Why would, of course. But why? I don't know. There's also...
MK Ultra's kind of shady, so...
Why not? Yeah. Who's to say? So did you hear the theories that maybe Lyndon B. Johnson, the vice president, did it?
Not that he did it. I thought maybe that he hired somebody to do it.
That's kind of what I mean. Yeah, not that he's out there assassinating him, but...
No, but I did hear that because he wanted to be president, but he really wasn't president for very long after that.
Yeah, and I guess he didn't really respect Kennedy at all.
No, they weren't on the same... They didn't have the same beliefs.
And they fought apparently like the day before, and there was talks of like taking his name off of some sort of ballot to not even be with Kennedy anymore, so they're saying he kind of had motive. I don't know.
What do you think reasons would be that people would want him assassinated in the first place?
Well, so apparently in Dallas, Texas, they weren't really welcoming of Kennedy. That is a very non-liberal area of America. A lot of people there have the right to bear arms. Apparently, there was even someone, I think it was a governor who told, or some sort of judge who told LBJ, like, hey, the tension here is hot. It's not really a safe place for Kennedy. And he never passed that message on to Kennedy. And people are saying that's really sketchy. So JFK did kind of have some controversy as far as he was more of a liberal person, shaking it up. So it could have just been like someone really just, for political reasons, not liking Kennedy and his views and what he stood for.
You know, in the UFO community that I had followed when I was in high school, the belief was that he would have been assassinated because of the things that he wanted to do in space.
The space stuff? Okay, well, we're going to talk about the space race with one of our other theories, I feel like.
Yeah.
There's also theories of course, the mob. I think he pissed off the New Orleans mob, Chicago mob, maybe even the Philly mob.
Right.
And so there's all these people who really wanted him out because JFK was trying to like clean the streets and get rid of all of that stuff. So I guess there is a lot of motivation to go after a man like that. He's a powerful man. He was causing a lot of change, and not everyone was ready for that change.
Right. Or he slept with the wrong woman.
He slept with a lot of women.
Yeah.
I watched this one documentary recently that was just about his affairs. And like he was sleeping with women who had once been like involved with all these other countries that were on our list of like, don't trust them, they could be a spy. He even shared a mistress with one of these mob guys. So that chick was going between Kennedy and a mob boss. Right. I'm like, girl, get it.
And you got to think, is all of that true? Or did he just sleep around once and then everybody took it and ran?
This documentary that I watched was so pre-Me Too movement. It was so sexist, and like all these old men just talking about how that is what it was, especially for the Kennedy boys, that Jackie was just like prepared and groomed to be like, yeah, that's what that kind of man does. It's your job to be his wife, and you're what the public sees, and he does what he does with these other women, and you don't worry about it. And it's just like a standard, kind of like with Princess Diana, how she was just expected to put up with his affairs.
Sure.
So I don't know what that says about men in power and women and where we stand, but it feels kind of shitty.
Right. I'd like to think we're past that now, but I don't know if we quite are.
I feel like Me Too did help. There has been more representation, and we're just fighting that good fight, and I feel like for each younger generation it'll get easier.
I hope so.
Yeah. I don't know how we went from here to there, but
power to women, but power to everybody.
Power to everybody, yeah. Because I feel like to be a true feminist is not to want power; it's want equality.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's the one.
So back to JFK. I thought it was kind of interesting that, like, apparently after the event, the American public was surveyed, and 70% of Americans believe in a conspiracy. Right. No one thought that there wasn't something behind it more sinister.
Right.
So another two theories that I heard of were that it could have been, this theory is called the mortal error theory, where one of the agents behind Kennedy, after the first shot went off, he went to grab his gun to try to like do something about it and accidentally shot the second shot. Oh. There was someone who like put out these books, and they called out the specific agent who did it, and eventually that agent ended up suing the author of those books for good reason.
Yeah, of course.
And have you heard of the Babushka lady?
Babushka?
Babushka? Have you heard about her?
No.
It's just another person like the Umbrella Man, where this lady, I think she just looks like an old Russian lady with like the little scarf around her head, and she's filming, and so people are like, the bullet came out of her camera.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, I heard that probably, or maybe this, the secret security had something to do with it. That they had to have been involved because they chose the route that they were on. They chose the car, I think. And there was one other thing that they chose that made it seem like they could possibly be involved.
Yeah, I've heard the stuff like that too, that they did a really bad job with the security because like that specific street where he got shot had, like, I think it was over 28 windows on, like, one building alone, and there was no way that they could protect every window, and so they just decided not to protect any window. Right. And that there was two different, I guess, fractions. There's a security team for the parade, and then there's just also people who knew about Oswald. He was employed at that bookstore, or whatever, the book depository, and so people knew he was there. They were already on the list of, like, being a suspicious character. So if those two like teams had talked about it and gone over it to be like, oh, this parade's coming through here or whatever, they probably could have warned him, no, that place isn't really safe. We know this guy, he's on our watch list. I wouldn't go by.
But they didn't talk about that.
No.
I also heard something fascinating, that the people who investigated the JFK thing also investigated Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination. Oh, exactly.
I think that they might be connected as far as trying to get out two powerful men making changes. And the Martin Luther King one was always a footnote in my JFK research, and it was kind of like, oh, put a pin in that because let's go look and to see what people are saying about that.
Yeah. It's crazy. I don't know what happened. I don't know what to believe in this one. Like, if I believe it or not, I don't. I mean, I definitely don't believe that his wife did it. It's hard to say what agency did it.
Yeah, so I guess the question is, is it a conspiracy? Was it what they say it is? Was it just Oswald solo, or was there more to it?
No, I think there was more to it. I just don't know which one is truth.
Yeah, it's like a need-to-know thing, and we are not on the need-to-know.
Right. And all the presidents who've ever come after him wanted to know, and they weren't even privy to the true answer.
Right.
So that's how secret it is. So either somebody died with that secret and it's nowhere to be found, gotta get some ghost activity thing going on. I'm like, come on.
Seance.
Seance.
Yeah. All right. Should we move on to our next one?
Yes, let's go.
I'll let you
Oh,
grab
it's
one.
me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that was a long one. Okay. Next one is... Oh, shit. This is a big one, too. Okay. Area 51.
Area 51. So I feel like we briefly talked about this,
yes.
and I go back and forth with Area 51 depending on my source of information.
Yeah, same.
So, what do you think?
So, Area 51, for those who don't know anything about it, is basically this... For years, they said it was an undisclosed place in Nevada where secret government operations happen all the way underground, and they try to back engineer craft and all sorts of things. For years, the government denied that there was a facility there, even though people came forward with proof, with pictures, and it wasn't until recently they actually started saying, oh yeah, there's something there.
Right.
I feel like by the 90s, late 90s, they started admitting there was something there, but saying it wasn't what we thought.
So at this point, there's no arguing the existence.
Right.
It's more the public is trying to guess what's done there.
Right.
And so we've got the Bob Lazar theory that
Yes.
they were just reverse engineering spacecrafts,
Mm-hmm.
that they were, some theories are saying that there were actual aliens held on the base.
Mm-hmm. Or work there.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that maybe the Phil Schneider stuff was involved with Area 51, but I think it was a different alien base.
Mm-hmm.
And there's all these little theories. I wonder if there's ever been an actual alien there. I kind of believe the Bob Lazar stuff, to be honest, about them doing craft work.
Mm-hmm.
So
He said that he saw more than just craft.
I think he said he saw an alien.
Right. So if you believe in the theory that our government is in contact with aliens, but somehow keeping it from the American public or any public that at all, if you believe in that, then you have to believe that there are aliens and craft in that facility.
Right. And so is it because as the country, they want us to be more dependent on the big companies and not have that free renewable energy?
That I'm not sure. You know, initially I thought they didn't want us to believe in aliens, and I thought it had something to do with religion, because they thought that there would be some sort of religious people who would come out and say that aliens couldn't possibly exist because God only created this earth and that kind of thing. So for years, that's what I thought was the reasoning behind it. But I think that it's a little bit more than that. And I'm not sure if it's to control us so that we don't leave Earth, or I don't know. What are you thinking?
I feel like all these theories kind of tie together.
Sure.
And so I know we're going to talk about all these other theories, so I feel like I don't want to go too deep.
Okay.
But I do like your theory on the religious controlling aspect. I think that's all I ever suspect of the government, is that they're just not giving you the full picture because they want us to be dependent on them.
Sure.
And they want to be the ones with all the money, all the power, and just holding us back. So if Area 51 exists, and I'm going to say that there's aliens there, I don't know if I really believe that.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah. I do think that they engineer test craft. Whether it's alien or not, I'm not sure. I'd like to say yes. But people, they have a lot of proof. A lot of people have proof. There are people who, there's this YouTube channel. This is who I'm talking about, but I can't remember the name of it. But they sit out there almost every day for hours at a time filming the area. So they have hours and hours and hours and hours of proof of them testing craft.
Are they seeing what you're saying, like UFOs, or what are you trying to say?
Well, they're saying that it's UFOs. I'm saying that it could be military craft that nobody knows about.
Yeah.
Because they're always trying to make craft that's bigger and better than everybody else's, right? And maybe they're trying to get to space. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But it could be based on alien technology that they found years and years ago.
And as humans, we're just scrambling to catch up. Yeah. I don't know. Do you want to do another one?
Yeah,
I feel like we have so many.
We do.
Okay.
Keep going.
Okay, this one is Titanic, which I don't know anything about. I'm excited for you to tell me.
I hope that I can get this one right. So Titanic set sail in March 1912? April? It crashed on April 15th, 1912. So I thought that they were at sea maybe a month, maybe 3 weeks. I can't remember. Anyways, so the conspiracy is that it wasn't the Titanic that actually sunk.
Okay.
That it was its sister ship. So there were 2 ships that were built, one in 1911 and then Titanic in 1912. The one in 1911 was hit by a warhead in some sort of war that was going on while it was at sea, and it kind of got injured. The ship did, I should say, got injured, and they had to take it back and they had to fix it. Well, they were still making the Titanic at the same time. So they said that they finished the outside of the Titanic but hadn't finished the inside, so they needed to use the ship the Olympic to be the ship that actually left that day. And so there are pictures. In fact, I'll show you. I have this picture of the ship where when the Titanic was first built, they took pictures of the I'm clicking on the wrong picture. The outside of the ship, and also what it looks like when it's submerged underground. In the water, because they had divers who went down and took pictures of the ship years and years later. So you'll see these pictures. This is the top one that they're saying is the Titanic underwater.
Okay.
Okay. The one below it is the same photo, but it's kind of enhanced so you can see it a little bit better. Mm-hmm. And the one under that is the black and white view of the window spacing and kind of where the square hole is. And then this one here is the Olympic. And then this was the Titanic.
Okay, so basically we're debating window sizes here?
Yeah.
So according to this photo, the Titanic windows are just way different. So,
right.
So even if it was a different ship, why would be that a scandal? Because they never finished the Titanic?
They were using it as an insurance scam to get money.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Because they didn't get the money that they needed when the Olympic crashed, or that incident happened with the Olympics, so they couldn't fully fix it.
So they knew it was going to go down?
They knew it was going to go down.
That'd be so dick.
Especially since 1,500 people died. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so there is talk that the Titanic went on to live as the Olympic, and that the inside of the ship parts were sold off later on and then put into a dining hall in this place called the White Swan Hotel. Hold on, let me look and see if that's the one. Yeah, the White Swan Hotel in the UK. And I was like, White Swan, Black Swan, White Swan Hotel, Black Swan Inn.
Right.
But the pictures that they... Just one second. My internet totally went out and I don't have my picture now. Here it is. So there is a drawing that they did back in 1912. And this was what the Titanic dining room looked like.
And so this is the dining room, or this is the restaurant?
It's the dining room.
Oh, okay. So this is a sketch of the dining room.
Sketch of the dining room. And then that's of the Titanic. This is the dining room on the Olympic. And that's all supposed to be white. It's just colored in this photo, black and white. But it's all supposed to be white. Mm-hmm. And then at the White Swan Inn, the restaurant, this is what it looks like.
Kind of like the Titanic?
Yeah. So that restaurant had supposedly purchased everything off of the Olympics dining room, which conspiracy theorists believe was actually the Titanic.
Huh. So the Titanic, if it wasn't the one that sunk, I mean, But what did it go on to do afterwards? It just was fine?
It just was fine.
Unsinkable?
It was just an unsinkable ship.
But they let everyone go off just so they could get some insurance money.
Mm-hmm. And there were people that were supposed to be on the ship. I think Rockefeller was one of them. He was supposed to be on the ship, but he wasn't. He said that he was too ill to go on the ship. But the theory was that he was notified ahead of time not to go onto the ship because if he did, he would die. And so he had said, well, I'm too ill to come onto the Titanic, so I'm going to stay back here in France. And then there were pictures days later, within a day, of him out in France walking around and eating and having a good time.
This sounds a lot like 9/11 conspiracy.
Mm-hmm.
So did this conspiracy come out immediately?
Yeah. Within months of the Titanic sinking, they believed that there was sort of some sort of conspiracy. However, they didn't know how in depth it was. But
because they were rushing the building of it, right?
Yeah, they were rushing the building of it. Mm-hmm. But if in fact the Titanic wasn't completely done when it was supposed to be, they would have needed to use another ship.
Oh my God! All of these theories are like almost similar.
Yeah. This
is freaking me out because it's like history repeating itself
over and over again until we learn our lesson.
Oh, can I grab another one?
Yes, do it.
Okay, because I'm like, every time we talk about one, it makes me think of another one and another one. This is perfect because this is 9/11 and that's
what I'm thinking about. 9/11. Okay, so
apparently 1 in 7 believe in 9/11 conspiracy theories as far as 1 in 7 Americans. And this is another one that I've heard was all just for like insurance claims. Apparently like the building owner knew about the blowing up of everything and he had just recently bought like terrorist insurance on the building.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I know I have some.
I'm actually not shocked to hear that because when they were saying that it exploded finally, because it didn't explode immediately when the planes hit, it exploded later.
Yeah.
And so the theory was that how could it go down? And it went down the same way a building would go down if it were
being demolitioned.
Yeah.
Because it went down in like 10, was it seconds or minutes?
Seconds.
Yeah, 10 seconds.
Yeah.
So both towers falling down in 10 seconds, and there's no way that the plane or even the engine fuel could have made it blow up that quickly. So there's like no doubt that explosives were a part of it, it sounds like. And even people who are on the streets, if you look at interviews, there's dozens and dozens and dozens of people saying, I heard explosions on ground zero.
Such a tragic event that happened. It's just really tragic. And you're right, it could have been explosions, but was that because there were other terrorists involved that put the explosives on there, or was it the building owners?
Right. So that's another theory too. It's like the theory that the building, that people knew the terrorists had planted and didn't stop it, that they themselves planted it for insurance and to like cause this war and an excuse to go, get oil and stuff in the war in Iraq. But that the explosives they think were used were thermite, which they did find at ground zero, traces of thermite. And according to researchers, like office furniture would not have even been enough to cause all that fire either, to melt those steel beams again.
Right.
So that's another reason. It's just a little bit creepy. And so the scientists and the demolition experts all say, like what you're saying, that in fact bombs had to be there.
Yeah, bombs had to be there. And then there were other explosions in different places. So one was in near the Pentagon, or at the Pentagon, and the other one was near that area too. And some people say that was a distraction, so those were going off. So hey, look over here, don't look at what's going on over here in New York. Look down here.
I heard that people who were at Pentagon said that something crashed into the building, but it wasn't even a plane. And when you looked at the site of the crash, there was no luggage. There were no bodies found ever. There was like one piece of scrap metal and nothing. I'm like, how would there not be luggage and seats and a plane?
Right.
And
but
people.
There was nothing.
Nothing.
It was disintegrated. I have some personal stuff that happened during that time period because my spouse was in the military at the National Guard. And the only thing that I can say that I feel like I can say over podcast is that he was told 3 days prior to the event to be on alert. That the National Guard at the time was on alert.
So they knew something was happening.
So that's all I can really say. But
there's theories that it's like the Bush administration and the government that they were involved, or again they just didn't stop it because again they wanted this whole terrorist attack. And there were like just silly things that seemed like they were framing these terrorists. Like a paper passport was just found on the New York sidewalk outside of the building of one of the people supposedly flying the planes, and they're like, what is the probability of this passport just being here?
Right.
And that like people who were being labeled as the terrorists were in fact just being kidnapped, framed, and forced to do this work. One of the guys involved, his dad and another guy's dad, they had been interviewed and they were saying, my son's passport was just stolen. He's framed by the FBI or the government, and he just called me and he told me all this like 48 hours ago. And it is unproven speculation, but evidence of the men who were framed as the terrorists, they don't have any evidence coming forward to show the public to like shut down these rumors of them boarding. They haven't ever released any security footage of them boarding, and it's never been released by the FBI. And I feel like they just wanted to go to war with Iraq. You know what I mean? And it's a sad thing to have distrust in your government. Maybe it's something we do when something is so tragic and unexplainable. We try to find alternate reasonings for it. But it just is one of these theories that I kind of believe in.
Right.
Like 90%.
Right. No, one of the things that I kept coming across was the synchronicities between the numbers, like numerology. Meaning that let me look at them. So New York City has 11 letters in it. The word or the date 9/11 is actually like 911.
Yeah, that is really weird.
Afghanistan has 11 letters. George W. Bush. New York was the 11th state. A plane hit the Twin Towers, and that plane was flight number 11. Number 11 had 92 passengers, which equals the number 11. When I was looking at the number 11 and what it means, because in numerology you would break that down to be 1 + 1, which equals 2. 2 equals the word balance. There was another thing. The second plane that hit the Twin Towers was number 77, which equals 14, which equals 5. And I think 5 stood for freedom. On board that plane, there were 65 passengers, which equals 11. 6 + 5 does. The total victims on all the planes was 254, which equals 11.
Wow, you got into it.
Yeah.
I feel like this is one of those things too, like speaking of synchronicities and just like all those weird cosmic forces, like isn't this something that Nostradamus had predicted?
Yes. Yeah.
As
Him
well.
and Baba Ganoush, which was in Russia, she also predicted this.
Oh, cool. I don't know about her.
Yeah, she was just like Nostradamus, but in a later time
But
period.
a female.
And a female.
Ooh.
Blind.
And a fortune teller, or what? I don't know if that's the right word, but she just had predictions.
She had predictions.
Okay, I'm researching her later.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I thought was kind of compelling as far as this whole insurance scam thing was there's this footage of BBC News anchors reporting on the attack of one of like the other buildings. I think it was Building 7 that got like kind of some of the residual damage from nearby, like it just was
debris.
catching on fire. Yeah, so they were reporting on that 20 minutes before it ever actually happened in New York, and the newscasters saying how Building 7 has collapsed, and behind her, Building 7, which is the World Trade Center, is just standing there. And some people say, well, there's so much chaos, it's miscommunication, they didn't know what was going on, they just saw the fire, and maybe they heard that it was going to get taken down. Other people are saying, no, it's planned, and the government was getting behind on their schedule of releasing the footage, which is just really freaking me out.
Right.
And so, basically what happened was that Building 7 ends up getting set off with explosives and taken down. And interviews of the owner, his name's Larry Silverstein, he said that the fire basically couldn't be contained, and they decided they were just going to get it pulled. That's like demolition talk for setting off explosives and just pulling down the entire building, which takes a long time to set up a bunch of
Right.
explosives to pull down a building,
Mhm.
and they did it just like that with a snap of a finger. They're like, oh, we're going to pull it. There's too much damage. We're pulling it down. And so he had just recently bought that terrorist insurance, and he got paid out $5 million after for the building falling down. But the thing is, for someone like Larry, that's not a lot of money because he has so much.
Mhm.
So would that be reason enough for him to do it? But he was also the kind of man, he worked at the towers, and he would go to work every single day. It was the one day he didn't go to work was 9/11. And there's, I think, multiple people who
Right, there
didn't
were
go.
higher ups. Same with at the Pentagon.
Mm-hmm.
There were specific people who were not in the building that day.
Yeah, so it's like they think they had insider information on the attack.
Mhm.
And the fact that it was only hit by debris and it should have been fine. Like, it didn't need to be pulled down, and it was pulled down too quickly. It just freaks me out. Like, I don't know how you pull yourself out of the conspiracy theory to see another side of it, but I think this one just pulls me down so hard where all I can see is like evidence of it being way deeper than they're disclosing.
Oh yeah, I totally believe it was way deeper.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 100%. What the reasoning is behind it fully, I don't know, but
Yeah, and Osama bin Laden did deny his involvement
from the beginning.
And then I saw like footage of a man who they say was Osama, who's saying, yeah, I did it. But it's like a bigger man with a bigger face, like a fuller nose, a fuller everything. Like, Osama was pretty skinny. Great bone structure. That's a weird thing to say. But like the guy, the fake imposter, he just looked like a bigger man. And he was saying, yeah, I did it. And so it's like the government just wanted us to have this whole anger towards, I believe, Iraq so that we could go and get oil. And this is one of the conspiracy theories that I was alive during. I can remember where I was that day. I remember going into school, going to choir class, this just playing on the news, everyone freaking out. And the days following was a lot of power of unity. And Americans were all about America. Flying that flag, being united. It was like a benefit to the government's evil plan. They united America to this cause to go to war, and we were all like so angry and standing together. It was a different time. Like, the air was different. There was so much heaviness in the air.
It was,
and patriotism.
Yeah, it was. You're right. I was pregnant during that time, so I totally remember every second before and after.
Yeah. Intense times. So I think that maybe they framed the terrorists, or just let the terrorists do what they wanted to do.
I think that there was a potential. There was still terrorism involved. I don't know who ordered it. I don't necessarily believe that it was Osama. But I think that there were terrorists involved that were paid by higher people, and that the American government knew about it way in advance.
I do have notes days in advance. Oh yeah, I think so too. There's this Operation Northwoods, and this is just proof that the government has pitched attacking American civilians to blame on terrorists. And you can Google it. This was in 1962, Operation Northwoods, and they wanted to fake a terrorist attack from Cuba. Basically, they were invading, and they were going to kill U.S. civilians to like pull this whole thing off so that we could go and attack Cuba. Luckily, it was denied by the Kennedy administration, but this does prove that the government has proposed the idea of a fake and planned terrorist attack, and it's not something that they wouldn't consider nor do.
Right. Think of how much fear was put upon us after that. And how every city in America was frightened that it was going to happen there. Are we next? Is this next?
Yeah. And it's a scary thing to believe, like, if you can't even trust your own government, or if you're afraid of terrorists. Either way you slice it, it's a scary pie.
Yeah, very much so. Ooh, that's a deep one.
It is.
I'm hoping that the next one is a little bit lighter.
Let's find out. What are we going to talk about next?
We are talking about cell phones.
Okay, cell phones, I feel like we did kind of hit on.
Yeah.
The theory that they're always listening.
Mm-hmm.
I was reading about this study that was done, I want to say in 2018, so at this point I feel like it's a little bit older, but they were monitoring phones for over a year with all these different apps, especially like Facebook apps and Instagram, and to try to study if they were listening to you. And what they actually found out was that they weren't listening, but they were watching and recording your screen, and they were like trying to get your zip code and things like that to try to sell you shit, like you were saying. And so they would like screenshot something on your phone and send it off to a third party.
Oh my gosh. What if you were dirty picking your spouse or boyfriend or...
I don't send nudes anymore because I am so paranoid. I've heard that like, was it that guy who's in like Russia hiding?
Snow. Yeah, Edward Snowden. Mm-hmm.
It says that like 100% CIA agents do get your nude pics. They intercept everything.
Yeah.
Creepy.
That's creepy.
Mm-hmm.
They've gotten some really interesting stuff that we've done then. Because we have some fun conspiracy conversations.
I was going to say, not pictures.
No. Oh, sorry. No, not that.
Just our weird conversations.
Our weird witch conspiracy UFO conversations.
Yeah.
I hate the fact that my screen could be recorded. I don't know why I didn't think that was a possibility.
I thought initially when I was reading the article they were going to say that they were watching me through the camera. Mm-hmm. Like how scary that would be. So I'm a little more content that they're supposedly watching my screen. But it's still creepy.
Yeah. So I did have something happen on my phone probably about a month back. Maybe this had something to do with it. But it was basically I was looking at Instagram and you do the double click thing if you like something. And then my phone flashed like it took a picture of my face. But then when I looked at my pictures, I didn't see anything.
No.
And then I was like, did they want to know my expression as I was looking at that photo?
Oh my god. That's creepy.
I didn't think anything of it. I was like, is that something new Instagram is doing?
I had one just today where I was scrolling through, I think it was YouTube, and I was Googling conspiracy theories, and my phone... I could hear audio like I was on a phone call, like how you can hear like the kind of the hum of the on call. I don't know how to describe it, but I heard it for like maybe under 5 seconds, and it went away as I was just scrolling. No audio was coming through.
Okay, so they just wanted to check to see what it was you were. Do you remember which conspiracy you were looking at?
I think it was JFK this morning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Creepville.
So, I mean, the convenience of phones is great.
Yeah.
I used a flip phone for a long time. I held on for a while until I finally was like, it's actually the same price to pay for a flip phone and a smartphone. I'm going to get a smartphone.
Yeah. Yeah, I had my trusty Razor for so long.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I still have it in a drawer. It's my backup.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
It'd probably be, like, really weird to go back now.
Yeah.
The things we put up with.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go for our next topic. Okay, this is what I'm excited to talk about. The moon landing.
Yes.
And did we fake it?
All right. So tell me, I didn't really do any research on this. I'm just going to bounce off of you.
That's me flipping through my notes. I did notes on this one because for some reason I find this theory to be a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. I know there are people who find it to be discrediting scientists and astronauts, and they get really raged at it. Mm-hmm. I'm not one of those people.
Yeah.
So I'm going to kind of break down what I was able to consume this week about looking into the fake moon landing.
Okay.
So it was during the Cold War. There was a space race going on. And Kennedy had promised by the end of this decade, by the end of the 60s, we were going to be like the first man on the moon. Mm-hmm. So there's this guy, Bart Seibel, and he has spent decades trying to prove basically that people like Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, they're all just liars, that they've never been to space. And he'll like go up to them and he'll interview them and be like, swear on the Bible that you've been on the moon. And it's kind of weird what their reactions are. They don't laugh it off. They don't brush it off. Mm-hmm. They don't comply. They get so freaking angry. They start screaming at him, pointing their fingers in their faces, getting red in the face, and Buzz Aldrin punched him in the face, and it's on YouTube if you want to see it.
Oh my gosh.
So he actually just like punched him in the face for insulting him. And the guy at Bart, he's just like, that kind of makes it to me where they're just proving that I'm right because they're getting so pissed. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I don't think they were faked, but I think we've never, as people of everyday life, we've never actually been on the moon. So how can we say that because you've come up with some theories, right, as to things why
I have
faked.
a lot of like silly nonsense,
Yeah.
and to be honest, I think that science can disprove all of it. But I'm gonna go over all my funness.
Yeah, I was like, I just feel that the reasoning behind why they think it was fake, we've never been there, so I physically have not been to the moon. I probably never will.
I would think not, unless we're going to be really rich and go.
Yeah, and so I'm just like, how can you say certain things like, oh, the flag, oh, this, the coloring, blah, 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 blah.
Right, we're kind of just depending on science for that, so...
Right.
People who kind of believe in this theory, they're called moon truthers.
Okay, just like flat earthers.
They're moon truthers, and there's millions of people who really believe in this. One of the big questions that moon truthers have is, why can't it be repeated? Why aren't we on the moon again? Why has it been like over 50 years? And that is kind of a good point. Why is it so hard? They also say the engines are not capable to even launch something like that into space. And there's this photo of the first like moon landing, and you can see the shadows. Like the shadow of the astronaut is going, I think, at like 12 o'clock, and a rock shadow is going at 9 o'clock, and they're saying that means it was taken in a studio with different lighting. It wasn't just the one source of the moon. But I did have to look into that one, and scientists say that the moon is a really reflective surface, and the light bounces around in all different directions, so shut up, moon truthers.
Right.
So there's that. People who were on this moon truther bandwagon, a lot of them point to Stanley Kubrick being the one who filmed the whole moon landing in a studio in Area 51.
Okay.
And that's because he made 2001: A Space Odyssey. And so they're like, this dude is really good filmmaker. He made it look so believable in his movie. I think this will be the guy to do it. Some believe that this was just a plan B in case we weren't able to actually get to the moon. They did this as a backup because they were really wanting to get to the moon before Russia. Sputnik had happened, and it was circling the Earth, I think 5 times a day over America, and we just had to beat them, basically. Right. So if they weren't able to actually do it before the end of the decade, they were going to come out with this film to prove that they did it regardless.
Wow.
And people have all these fun theories about when you're watching The Shining, that it's really like Stanley Kubrick's way of pointing to the truth. Because Danny has a shirt of like the Apollo 11 or Apollo 1, and just like all these different like little details about when you go into the room, it's the number of some sort of thing and how it all aligns. I didn't take notes on that, but I just thought it was fun. So basically they say it's pure propaganda for the NASA studio and the NASA project and the NASA program, that if they could prove they would go to the moon, they'd get all this funding. But the live video moon footage, there was, I guess, what do I have here? I have 140,000 missing reels of film. So I don't know if you've heard about how all the reels weren't missing and that they just taped over it, and that NASA admits they don't know what happened or where it had gone. But the truth on top of that, though, is that they had made copies of it. They don't have the original live, but they made copies, and it's in the Houston base of NASA. So I don't
most
know
of that stuff's online now. You can watch moon footage online.
Yeah, so I don't really know if it's that important that we don't have the original, but that's where conspiracy theorists are going to come in and say they're editing it or making it different. And it's one of the greatest moments in history. Like, why would you not have it? So basically, it was 1967 when we went to the moon. There was only 3 years till the end of the decade to like fulfill Kennedy's promise. And one thing that is true about NASA is that the conditions of what the astronauts were going through were really unsafe. The equipment was really unsafe. They knew that most likely they weren't going to make it out alive, and they were rushing.
I feel like it's pure luck, because you're right. I know that equipment everything that I read said that equipment
wasn't good.
Nothing like what we have today.
Yeah. And they were risking their lives just to like prove a point.
Mm-hmm.
There's one astronaut I really wanted to talk about, and his whole conspiracy. It gets kind of deep. His name's Gus Grissom. He was the second man to fly into space in 1961. He basically reached suborbital altitude of about 180 miles above Earth's surface, and he was up there for like 15 minutes. Anyway, he was really vocal about how unsafe NASA was and how he could see that they were rushing speed over safety. He was telling people this and trying to have like conferences about this last minute to expose it to America. There was this thing that he did. He hung a lemon on some sort of command simulator module on a hanger, and he hung the lemon up, and this was like slang for saying it's a lemon, it's no good. And this is where this like whole lemon slang comes from. If you Google hang a lemon, you'll find a ton of conspiracy theories tied to him. It was basically his cry for help to show America it's a broken down piece of junk. And some say that they were really upset with him for exposing NASA and how bad it was in the conditions they were, so they had him that NASA had him killed, because he did die a couple days after this incident, and something that was really, really, really tragic. There was a fire in a cockpit, and it was him and two other astronauts who were in the cockpit doing some testing, and he's screaming, and I heard it live, his death. It was like making me want to cry. He was just like, it's getting really bad, I'm burning up, and then like it just kind of cuts out. And so they were trapped in this little cockpit.
Oh my gosh.
And they burned to death, and they were incinerated. And they think that they just burned Gus along with those two other people on purpose to like kind of avoid suspicion, and it was just an accident. But there was some proof that maybe that there was this little button in there that had been like under a panel, and it was set off to cause the fire and to actually kill them on purpose.
Oh my gosh.
Because they didn't want, because Gus Grissom wouldn't have gone along with the fake moon landing because he was outspoken that he needed to be silenced.
Tragic.
Isn't it? I have other stuff too. So like there was the safety inspector, his name was Ronald Barron. He also criticized NASA for all the shortcomings and the hazardous conditions and how they really ignored it. And he wanted to testify in front of Congress, and he had this whole report going on built up to like prove how bad they were. But 2 weeks prior to his report coming out and being published, him and his family were killed in a car accident where they got hit by a moving train.
Wow.
And there was no autopsies ever really done on it. And so some people think that like anyone who's trying to come out against NASA and expose them for their unsafe conditions is just being killed off.
Oh my gosh.
And the son of Gus Grissom, Scott, he has come out and even said how he went into the cockpit. They allowed the family to go look at everything, and he said that he saw the switch that was there, and he thinks that it was deliberately put there to kill his father, and like his wife was expecting him to die because they just knew that even if he went up in that rocket, there was no way he'd come back alive. So, it's kind of interesting and sad to see what they were doing to those astronauts, and I can see how people say it's disrespectful to, like, even question the moon landing, because that kind of putting their lives on the line just to get to the moon in the first place, so how dare we insult them and their accomplishments? But what I'm kind of learning from this moon landing research is that NASA was shady and treating their people really unsafely, just to boast to another country that we could get there before you.
Right. And there were a bunch of non-human involved, like unmanned ships that were around the moon before we even went there. I still stick by the fact that I'm sure that we were there. Why we didn't go back? What are your theories on why we never went back?
I wonder if it's because it is so risky. They knew that they shouldn't have repeated that again to put someone in those conditions. But we do have moon rocks. We do know that, like, when NASA was there, they put moons on the rock, and now, not moons on the rock.
Rocks on the moon.
We put mirrors on the moon
mirrors,
so that we could, like, tell how far it is away from us, I guess. That's something that's helping them kind of plan or, like, track it as it moves. And so there's evidence that we went to the moon. I think that it's just another one of those big evil corporations. And, like, after hearing what they did to Gus Grissom and, like, all the stuff he went through to be an astronaut, like, he almost died when he went up in space his first time, because when he came back down and his little, I don't know if you call it a shuttle, but that little capsule part landed in the water, the trap door thingy just opened unexpectedly and it started sinking down.
And he almost drowned.
Mm-hmm. And, like, Americans were blaming him. They're like, you opened it too early. Yeah. And, like, everyone was blaming him. And then eventually his family had to move because they were getting so much crap from America. They had to go into hiding.
Oh, my gosh.
But in truth, finally a report came out that was saying, oh, no, it was a faulty door. We inspected it.
Yeah.
So
malfunction.
this guy went through a lot.
That's sad.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if he was killed on purpose or if it was just a shitty accident due to the horrible conditions.
Mm-hmm.
But the moon landing being faked by Stanley Kubrick is a fun idea.
Sure,
as a plan
fun.
B.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it really is what happened.
No. I think that we might not have gone back to the moon because it was too expensive, and we've been there, done that.
I also heard the theory that the only way we got there was help from aliens.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Well, if you think about it, not Area 51, Roswell happened in 47, 20 years later, we went to the moon.
Mm-hmm. Were we using some of their technology and we don't have access to that anymore? Or
right.
Did they help us and we don't have access to that anymore?
Right. Who knows?
Yeah.
They said that, the Roswell incident and all of those incidents that happened around that time period were what helped America.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe they did push us in this direction. And now they want to push us to go farther.
Yeah. Okay, you grab the next one.
Oh yeah, me. Come on, what's left?
I don't know.
I forget. Okay, let's see. There's still a few in there, my goodness.
We might not get to all of them today.
How about Nibiru Planet X?
Oh, this is a fun theory.
Yeah, so Nibiru is supposedly this 9th planet in our solar system. And the whole thing was that Nibiru was going to crash into planet Earth in May of 2003. Well, obviously that's passed, so that hasn't happened. But I do have a story of how that came about, if that's cool.
Please.
So there is this woman named Nancy Leiter. She was the leader of a Zeta talk group. And you'll notice the name Zeta from some other instance, like, Betty and Barney Hill.
Yeah, Zeta Reticulans.
So Miss Nancy Leiter, she used to get information from the Zeta Reticulans where she would go into a trance and they would send her messages. And they told her that Nibiru was coming our way, that it was going to either hit into Earth or come close to Earth. And if it came close to Earth, it was going to flip our poles in a very fast way, which would cause catastrophe all over the world and would cause the end of the human race,
mm-hmm.
as we know it today. So, what do you think?
Well, I think it's kind of interesting because science has belief in planet Nibiru. They call it Planet X. Mm-hmm. They think it's 4 times the size of Jupiter and 10 times the size of Earth. And the reason they think it's there is because they have mathematical evidence of different, like, planets. I guess there's this belt, the Kuiper belt. There's something about the unique orbit of the smaller objects. It's like an icy area of debris, and the way it's moving, they think it's being affected by a larger planet.
Right.
Which is something similar to, like, before we discovered Neptune, we had similar things where it's like, it looks like there's something affecting the orbit of this planet beyond. But, mm-hmm. Our science at this point in time just can't see it.
Right.
And so scientists really do believe in this planet, which gives this one some really, really cool background and some levity to it. Now, what exactly it is, we just aren't smart enough as humans to know. Right. So I did see that there's a theory that it's kind of like a brown dwarf twin of the sun, and so that they're just kind of like orbiting each other, kind of opposite,
like
opposite
a yin and a yang.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, and so when it does get closer, it's affecting the Earth, like you're saying. It's causing these tsunamis. It's causing Hurricane Harvey and things like that. And so the weird climate change that we're experiencing, people are trying to connect it to Planet Nibiru and Planet 9 and saying mm-hmm. that it's coming. And if it does come, it's going to just cause the end of the world.
Right.
Another thing that Nostradamus predicted, I know, And then when you look at the ancient Sumerian texts of planet Nibiru, that's where we get tied into the Anunnaki.
Right.
And how this is where our creator alien race, they supposedly came from planet Nibiru. And this is all found in Sumerian ancient tablets and texts of their basically origin stories of America. Not America.
The world.
I'm so American that all I know growing up, I feel like, was Adam and Eve.
Yeah.
And so, like, hearing the folklore and or truth of the Anunnaki is super, super crazy. So I kind of like talking about those two brothers that were, like, warring at the beginning of civilization. Have you kind of looked into the story?
Not really. I mean, I know what you're talking about, but it kind of reminded me of a story, Cain and Abel, so...
It kind of seems like it's warring brothers, so there's definitely a lot of similarities in, like, all these cultures and their origin stories and their gods, their goddesses, their main players. Like, I've even seen people compare the Anunnaki brothers to, like, Sheba and things like that. So, like, ancient Sumeria is what now is Iraq, which I didn't even know until recently. I'm just like, they don't teach you these things in school, guys.
Yeah, we're so busy learning lies about Christopher Columbus that they couldn't teach us.
Exactly. And then the word Anunnaki, it means those who are from heaven to earth came. And it says that in their tablets, it says they arrived, I think, thousands of years ago. And so there was a brother, they were the rivals. There was Enlil, and he fought to kind of control Earth, I believe, and to control humans and kind of to enslave them. And this is how we have, like, all these weird underground structures that are, like, in our ancient civilizations. It was like humanity running away from the Anunnaki leaders and trying to, like, get away from them, supposedly.
Caves,
yes. And so it gets really deep, but I kind of, like, a part of me wants it to be true. It's just super weird. And then there's the other brother, Enki, and he was like a scientist. He was known as the Great Magician. And if you look at the medical symbol where it's those two snakes, it kind of stems from Enki. His symbol were the dragon and the snake, and they were intertwined, and he had all this knowledge. And he really wanted humans to evolve and to expand their consciousness and, like, all the stuff we talk about. So I feel like we would love Enki.
Yeah.
And so those two brothers are kind of fighting over what to do with humanity, and eventually Enki put in some of the Anunnaki DNA with the human DNA, and that's where they say that our current race stems from.
Right.
And so Planet X theories get really deep, and I'm sure a lot of people are just like, what the heck, Sharon, you sound crazy. But this is just, like, all the stuff that's found in these Sumerian tablets. And so, like, blending the folklore tale with what scientists are saying, there's just an interesting story to, like, really unveil, even if you don't believe in it.
Sure. And even the orbit of Planet X, I remember in Sumerian texts it says something about... in order for them to be able to travel here in the first place, it had to be when Planet X was close enough to the Earth. So as it went into this specialized orbit. And now I believe, as of at least this year, they do say that the orbit of Planet 9, if it does exist, is an erratic one. It would not come near the Earth except for every, like, maybe 6,000, 7,000 years.
Yeah, and so it's only a matter of time, and sometimes it'll cause destruction, sometimes it will not.
Right.
Earlier you were talking about how you felt like the government was using religion to kind of control us.
Sure.
I found out that the symbol of planet, they call it Planet X, right? Which is a symbol of a cross.
Sure.
And so this is kind of why we have the religious symbol of the cross of Jesus, and it's all just about this whole brainwashing system to filter information to society and to control us. And this is something that the brother Enlil would want to do to cause psychological imprisonment to people, so they no longer are searching for that connectedness and higher consciousness, and they want people to not be aware of where they came from. They don't want them to know that they have, like, spliced DNA of these aliens and these godlike creatures.
Right.
It's so freaking cool to me.
Even though angels and aliens are the same thing, you guys.
Yeah, watchers.
In my mind, they're all the same thing.
Yeah, so it all kind of goes with the Book of Enoch, I feel like, and Nephilim, and, like, it is so out there, but it's probably one of my favorite things that I've learned ever since we've been doing podcasts is, like, this ancient Sumerian history. I think it's fascinating.
It is. It's beautiful,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah. So I don't know if that would be a good thing to be true, because clearly we were a slave race to this stronger alien beings. And so what would that say about our existence? You know what I mean?
Right.
These ancient engineers who built us for not really a beautiful purpose.
Right.
I mean, thank God for the other brother who gave us a chance of free will.
Right.
But, you know, is our life meaningless? Are we just here to build monuments?
Mm-hmm. Monuments to the gods. Well, we've stopped doing that a long time ago, right? Except for to Jesus now. That's pretty much all you see are monuments to Christ. We don't see new monuments to old gods as much anymore.
Right.
That's it. Let's get on it. We need to make this Hecate monument.
Let's take it back to Hecate. Forget you, Planet Nibiru. Yeah. So Planet X kind of freaks me out, I know, but I don't feel like we should live our life like a doomsday is coming. Just enjoy it. And
they did tie it into 2012 too. If you think about the Mayan prophecies, they said it was 2012, not 2005, like the Zeta Reticulans had told Miss Leiter. Mm-hmm. But obviously, even in 2012, nothing happened. Our planet didn't end, but the poles did start to shift.
Right.
So we are currently in a pole shift. And that happens over a period of like 100 or so years, I feel like, is what I read. I wrote that down. Don't quote me on that.
Right, we go loose with our facts today.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think it's really cool that scientists does think that there's something beyond our reach. I heard another theory of why we can't see it is that it could be like a black hole, specifically a primordial black hole, which is super, super tiny.
Primordial ooze!
Yeah! And it was actually, the reason it's so tiny now is because it was formed during the Big Bang. Yeah. And so that's why it's super hard to detect, but why it's kind of manipulating those icy bodies that are out there. Mm-hmm. I don't know. And I think maybe someday we will know, but we just don't have the technology for that.
Sure. Which is crazy. You would think we would have cameras that could go out there, considering we've gone to other... we've sent craft out to other bodies of solar systems. That's what I'm trying to say.
I know. Like, what is the Hubble telescope doing that it doesn't go that far?
Right. Or they didn't... I think that they would have had to put it on a trajectory, so they would have mapped it out. So why don't we get something that can go out to where Planet 9 is?
I have no idea, honestly.
Damn it, NASA! What are you hiding from us?
Yeah. Let's go look into Planet Nibiru.
All right, you're next.
Okay, face on Mars.
Okay, we can talk about the face on Mars.
Let's do that.
So this should be pretty short. So in the 50s, was it? I should get my notes out. Did you take notes on this too?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
I don't know too much about it other than I feel like it looks like a face on Mars.
Yeah.
What does it mean? I do not know.
So in 1976, they flew the Viking 1 by Mars and took a photo of this place called the Olympus Mons. Mm-hmm. And they saw a giant mountain there. The picture was really kind of unfocused, but it did sort of look like a face. And when people would zoom into it, it would look like a face. And then they went back in 1998, and the topography had changed a little bit. And by 2001, the topography had changed so much that you couldn't even tell it was there. But it does kind of look like it's a pyramid with the face on top, and you can see the pictures there.
Yes, I've seen the guy.
NASA is trying to say that it's matrixing of the eyes, and that the mountain hasn't ever changed. We've just gotten better photography or better cameras out there to take pictures. But the truth of the matter is that the topography has changed. I don't think it's that our cameras have gotten better. I think that it has changed because there's harsh winds on Mars.
Yeah.
Just like anywhere here on America, if something is not kept up by humans, then of course it's going to deteriorate.
Yeah, that just seems like, why wouldn't they believe in that with the winds and everything?
Harsh weather on Mars. Extreme heat, extreme cold, hard winds, tornadoes that are massive. Why would they think that it couldn't be changed just based off of weather? Mm-hmm.
So, the theory behind the face, is there anything about like them thinking it was carved or made by intelligence?
See, and the theory is, conspiracy theorists believe that was proof that there were pyramids on Mars and that there was life on Mars prior to life on Earth, and that people from Mars came here and inhabited a section of the Earth. And of course, mainstream society says that that's not possible, but that they have now, with the equipment that they have up there, they have found that there are living organisms as far as like microscopic. So that's what started life on Earth. What makes them think that there hasn't been life on Mars at some point?
No, it was the Anunnaki.
It could have been, yeah.
They just started
That was their
us.
stopping point. They came from Nibiru, landed on Mars for a little while, and then came to Earth. Maybe they populated both. But supposedly in the past, Mars looked a lot like Earth.
Yeah, it was habitable.
Yeah, scientific proof that they believe that it had a habitable climate.
And we have rovers on Mars, so
Yes.
hasn't there been theories of like them taking pictures and people saying, oh, that's like an old building?
Sure, and it does look like that.
Mm-hmm.
It does appear to look like there has been buildings, or possibly may even be small life like cockroaches. I think I've talked about that before, or scorpions, or maybe even rabbits. It does look like there could potentially be life there, but we won't really know until we go. We would have to have humans there. A camera can only do so much.
I mean, I remember when those little guys got there, wasn't it like Serenity is one of their little names?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I was in high school, and it was like so exciting to know about those rovers on Mars, and we thought we were going to get so much information.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure by now that they have recorded a lot.
Yes.
That if there was evidence of buildings, would they disclose it, or would they keep it under wraps?
Well, let's talk about that. It's just that these crafts that they have up there now are from NASA, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they don't have to disclose any of that information to us. They just have to disclose it to the government. And it's up to the government to decide whether we should know that information. Even on their website, it's really controlled. They do like to think that it's transparent, and they like to show us as much as they can. But do they?
Yeah.
So if there were buildings on Mars, I don't think they'd show us.
Yeah, I don't think that at this point the government wants us to know anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, from Bigfoot to the face on Mars, like, I feel like they just want us to stay in this lane of being blind to a lot of things, even connecting with our own power and our intuition and
Magic.
and magic and our consciousness and
Mm-hmm.
our connectedness. I think it's just like easier to keep people distracted with their cell phones, distract them with the shopping, distract them with this and that, and keep people away from this way of thinking. I don't know if that's an unhealthy way to think, to distrust your government, but
Right.
look at where we're at politically.
I know, I'm all, you cannot tamper down this witch.
Well, I feel like this has been a long episode.
It has been. I hope you guys stuck it out.
Yeah, we tried to cover a lot, and maybe that's why we got long, but hopefully you guys enjoyed this.
Yes.
Okay, guys, well, we really appreciate you being here. We'll be here every Wednesday with a brand new episode. You can always find those over on Podomatic or anywhere else that podcast episodes can be found. If you want to go back to season 1 or read any of our blog, you can find that at cousinscoven.home.blog. You can also sign up for our newsletter over there that we send out a couple times a year with some fun witchy information. Send in any of your emails or research topic ideas that you'd like us to cover. If you have paranormal experiences, send them into cousinscoven2@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you guys.
Yes, and may you find happiness in your heart, love for yourself, and join each other. Blessings to all.